Atomic Habits, Chapter 13. How to Stop Procrastinating by Using the 2-Minute Rule. A habit can be performed in a few seconds but can lead to actions that follow for minutes or hours. Here's a brief explanation from this chapter. Habits are like the entrance ramp to a highway. They lead you down a path, and before you know it, you're speeding toward the next behavior. It seems to be easier to continue what you're already doing than to start doing something different. You sit through a bad movie for 2 hours. You keep snacking even when you're already full. You check your phone for just a second, and soon you have spent 20 minutes staring at the screen. In this way, the habit you follow without thinking often determine the choices you make when you are thinking. And I've done this a lot in my life, so it resonates and it hurts reading this, honestly. So moving on. So what is the 2-minute rule? The 2-minute rule is the habit you perform as a ritual, which determines your actions for the following minutes or hours. And that some examples could be putting on workout clothes. Um, that could be the 2-minute ritual to begin a workout. Turning on your video game console is a 2-minute ritual to beginning a gaming session, which could last for hours if you've ever played any games. Picking up your phone and opening an app is a 2-minute ritual to browsing on your phone, which could also last for hours and be a complete time drainer. Every day you have decisive moments that decide what you will do for the majority of that day. Here's a little graph that depicts this. I'm going to read the caption before we look at this. The difference between a good day and a bad day is often a few productive and healthy choices made at decisive moments. Each one is like a fork in the road, and these choices stack up throughout the day and can ultimately lead to a very different outcome. Um, I think the graph in itself is pretty self-explanatory. You start from a good choice, and then you have to make a decision of making more good choices or more bad choices. So let's say you make a bad choice, but you follow it with good choices, then you'll end up having a good day. However, if you start off with a good choice and then go to a bad choice and then make another bad choice and you keep making bad choices, you'll have a bad day. In that sense, it's pretty logical. And what James Clear is trying to say is your habits, that 2-minute ritual, is that decision, the, whether you'll make a good choice or a bad choice. Picking up that game controller will decide whether you're going to play a video game or not. Turning on that game console will decide whether you play a video game or not. And the same can be said about books. Opening up the book is in itself a ritual to reading that book. You flip to the first page, that's a ritual of starting a brand new book. So this can be a positive or a negative thing depending on how you implement it in your life. And you may have noticed that subconsciously you have a lot of these rituals already in your life. We all do. The hard thing is to take out the bad rituals and replacing them with productive or healthier rituals. Another passage from the book, even when you know you should start small, it's easy to start too big. When you dream about making a change, excitement inevitably takes over and you end up trying to do too much too soon. The most effective way I know to counteract this tendency is to use a 2-minute rule, which states when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. When I want to do something, I fall for this trap a lot. Let's say I want to start reading, then I could say I'm going to read 30 or 60 pages in one day. And then you start reading and you realize that, okay, some days it's cool to read 30 pages, some other days I just don't feel like it. So what James Clear is saying, when you follow the 2-minute rule, then your habit only takes 2 minutes. So it's super convenient and super easy to perform because one, it doesn't take a lot of time, and two, it doesn't take a lot of energy. If you remember what we discussed in the previous chapter, our brain is set up to conserve energy. So by nature, we're lazy. We will choose the easier and more convenient option. So what you want to do with your habits is you want your habit to be very simple, very easy. So simple that Even a kid could do it. A 5-year-old or a 10-year-old kid could do it. And then the actions that follow it could be a little bit more difficult. But the habit in itself should not demotivate you. And I'm going to discuss this further. So here's a few examples about this. You'll find that nearly any habit can be scaled down into a 2-minute version. Read before bed each night becomes read one page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Study for class becomes open my notes, and so on and so forth. Here's a few bullets I've written. Set up your habits in a way that anyone could do them. So this is something I've already discussed. It shouldn't feel like a challenge. A habit should be convenient and it should be fun. It should be fun because you want to do it again and again and again. So the easiest way to do something over and over is when it's fun. If it's not fun, you're not going to do it again. When you play games, you like picking up that controller because it stimulates your brain and your senses. You enjoy playing video games. That's why you pick up that controller. When you're trying to eat healthier, if you're trying to eat things that just don't make you happy, they don't bring a joy on your face, then you're not going to stick with that habit. So it's an easier way to just slowly add things into your current diet. You could start off with a small smoothie. It doesn't even have to be 100% healthy. You could start off by having, let's say, a protein powder. So before you just had some smoothie with sugar and ice cream or something crazy that was unhealthy. To make it a slightly healthier, you could take out one bad thing and replace it with one good thing, piece by piece. And eventually you will have the healthiest smoothie ever. Because slowly you're manipulating the things that go into that smoothie. You're not making a massive change from the get-go. Just a little off topic, but Apple is a very good example of this. You can look at the iPhone. Each year the iPhone comes out. Each year people go crazy for it and buy it. Why? Because it's not so different from last year, but it's different enough where people are enticed to buy it. You see, the thing about business is you want to entice the consumer. You don't want to confuse them with something completely off brand with what you had last year or the year before that. And Apple is a master at that. They change up their devices just slightly enough so that there's some level of interest in the market to buy them, but not so much that the hardcore fans are repelled. So I think that is something that if you can implement in your life, you will have a more successful time handling your habits and being more productive. Another bullet, what you want is a gateway habit that naturally leads you down a more productive path. A passage from the book. You can usually figure out the gateway habits that will lead to your desired outcome by mapping out your goals on a scale from very easy to very hard. For instance, running a marathon is very hard. Running a 5K is hard. Walking 10,000 steps is moderately difficult. Walking 10 minutes is easy. And putting on your running shoes is very easy. Your goal might be to run a marathon, but your gateway habit is to put on your running shoes. That's how you follow the 2-minute rule. Do you see how simplified this becomes? Running a marathon is a massive task. Not everybody can do it. But putting on your running shoes, even a kid can do. So you start from the very easy difficulty level, and then you move on to the next difficulty level, and so on and so forth. Here's a few examples of them. We already discussed the marathon one, so let's look at the second one. You want to write a book. So how can you start? Very easy is to write up one sentence. Slightly less easier is to write one paragraph. Moderately difficult, write 1,000 words. Something that it can be perceived as hard is writing 5,000 words or writing a 5,000 word article. And something that is very hard is to write a book. Earning a PhD, that's something I want to do in my lifetime. So this is something that uh, I will try to be implementing in my life. Not this exact way, but something that follows this formula. Something very easy if you want to earn a PhD is open your notes. You don't even have to read them, you just have to open them. Something easy is to study for 10 minutes, moderately difficult, study for 3 hours, hard, get straight A's, very hard, earn a PhD. So there is a kind of a gamified approach to this. You don't have to uh, look at this as a chore. You can look at this as leveling up. By doing these habits every day, you're practicing showing up. And by showing up means that you will level up to the next level. If you keep playing a video game, you level up and you get better. Or I should say, you get better, and to prove that you're better, you level up. You get medals or whatever. Think of it as the same way. By doing something every day, naturally you're going to get better at it and you're going to step up to the next level. And you're going to keep stepping up until you reach whatever that desired goal is. Another bullet I wrote on this: don't theorize and try to make the habit as effective as possible from the start. Go easy on yourself by practicing showing up, doing the bare minimum in the beginning. So again, you want to set up your habits in a way that even a child could do it. That way, you know that you're on a path uh, to creating a successful and healthy habit. Because you don't want to start a habit that just stresses you out. When you set out a goal for yourself and you can't reach it every day, that's stress. You want to avoid that. And I'm saying this really to myself because I do this way too often. Here's another passage from the book. If the 2 minute rule feels forced, try this. Do it for 2 minutes and then stop. Go for a run, but you must stop after 2 minutes. Start meditating, but you must stop after 2 minutes. Study Arabic, but you must stop after 2 minutes. It's not a strategy for starting, it's the whole thing. Your habit can only last 120 seconds. If a new habit starts to feel like a chore, stop immediately. You want to make sure that whatever you're performing feels good, because what feels good is something that you are willing to perform again. And the other part is that if you're starting off by uh, by doing a habit only for 2 minutes and then shutting it out, and you leave that habit with good feelings, when you come back the next day, you start off with those same good feelings. And then the process repeats until that habit becomes natural. Another final passage: strategies like this work for another reason too. They reinforce the identity you want to build. If you show up at the gym 5 days in a row, even if it's just for 2 minutes, you're casting votes for your new identity. You're not worried about getting in shape, you're focused on becoming the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. You're taking the smallest action that confirms the type of person you want to be. We rarely think about change this way because everyone is consumed by the end goal. But one push up is better than not exercising. 1 minute of guitar practice is better than none at all. 1 minute of reading is better than never picking up a book. It's better to do less than you hoped than to do nothing at all. I think this is a good passage to close off this video on. And I think this was a really, really informative chapter, and I think this has to be one of my favorites because the 2 minute rule is a very good strategy to building habits. And I do remember reading about this in the past, but I never implemented it. But now I'm seriously thinking about how I can implement it in my life because convenience is king. Whatever is convenient is what is repeated. And I'm going to leave off at that. This was chapter 13, and I'll be seeing you very soon. Have a nice day.